your heart, your spirit, your spirituality, your mind, your mindfulness. All of those things also require maintenance. I don't want no types of collaborations with the devil. Okay? None. I don't want to be in partnership. I don't want you to know my name. I want you to forget that I exist. Please go on over there, Mr. Satan. Okay? I think that comparison can be healthy. Sometimes you are comparing yourself to people because it's what you want. And then sometimes it is evidence that what you want is possible. That was just so far away from who I am. And I think that in a lot of ways, I'm now uncertain about my ability to get back to her. I need to free up attaching my creativity to expectation. God has just really been showing up for me. And so I felt like I owed it to myself to at least show up for myself. Faith without work is dead. And so one of the things that I keep asking God, well, what is the work that I need to be doing? I always say you need to create what you need to see and trust that other people will see themselves in you, because people connect with what's real. We let all of these outside forces get in the way, and it keeps us stagnant, and it keeps us from really showing up and doing what we feel like we're called to do. And I have let those things get in my head. Just because you can't see it doesn't mean it ain't working. Just because you don't see it happening doesn't mean it's not happening. Like, I've worked too damn hard to show up as me and be unapologetic about that. So whenever I enter into a space where I feel like that's not accepted, I retreat, because I can't go back. Word to Kamala Harris, we ain't going back. This one is for the millennial who needs to learn to take their own advice. Okay, let's go beneath the seams. Life can be so complex. The human experience is far more expansive than what we can see, and we spend so much time just trying to figure it out. We put on makeup, nice clothing, and we go out into the world trying to hold it all together, when beneath those seams, we are being ripped apart. Some of the ripping is self-inflicted, some of it is because of the pressure of society, but all of it is limiting. Limiting in our quest to just simply be who we truly are. We're more complex than we give ourselves credit for. We fill our brains with popular sayings like, oh, it ain't that serious, loosen up, or just live a little. But life in itself is a deep, non-surface level experience, and sometimes it can be pretty serious. So often we force ourselves to only exist at the surface, never allowing ourselves to be fully exposed. We let the layers pile up until the pressure becomes too much to bear, and then we rip. Sometimes into shreds, and a lot of the times in silence. Beneath means to go below the surface, and seams are what are supposed to keep us joined together. Because we are taught, no matter what, you just have to keep yourself together. We create this image, never letting people in, never going beneath the seams. I don't know if we ever get the answers we expect from life, but I'm starting to find peace in the process of just figuring it out. Instead of forcing the complexities of this human experience to be hidden, let's peel back the layers and go beneath them. Beneath the Seams, a love letter to millennials who are just trying to figure it out. Beneath the Seams, the podcast, now available on all platforms. Hey y'all, and welcome back to another episode of Beneath the Seams. I am your host, Kayla Riggins, and this is the safe seat. This is the scene seat. This is the space where we peel back the layers of all of the goings on in our lives and get personal. This is the seat where we talk about things that people don't be wanting to talk about. We address the tough things going on inside of us that we may not be able to say out loud. And, you know, Beneath the Seams is all about uncovering those things that go beneath the surface, right? Peeling back the layers of clothing and makeup that protect us and really getting personal. It's also a play on words because things are rarely what they seem in life. And so get into the meat and the root of everything that we have going on so that we can talk about it, so that we can lift those weights and sometimes those burdens and ultimately expose and become our true selves. I feel like the time that we have here on earth is limited. You know, we're on borrowed time. We didn't come here to stay. And I think it's important that we use that time being ourselves. And so that's the purpose, that's the point of this podcast. Okay. So if you ain't never tuned into an episode, this is your first time, welcome. Things look a little different around here today. We are still in our home set in the garden, in the sunroom. That's what I use as my studio slash office. But what looks the most different is me. I am usually in full drag, darling, but I'm usually in hair, makeup, wardrobe, because those things speak to who I am. I love to get dressed. I love, going out, putting on makeup. Like, I enjoy those things. But I want to be in a space where I also remain authentic to situations where I don't feel like doing those things and still being able to show up. And so today, y'all getting beneath the seams for real, because it's all about peeling back those layers that protect us metaphorically and literally. And so the layers that protect us literally, what? The clothing, the makeup. And so today we are ripped and stripped. We got to call this what? Beneath the seams, under the seams edition. Because I did not want to record an episode this week. I just didn't have the capacity to really produce it in the way that I like for it to be produced. And I heard clearly, a voice say to me, which I trust to believe the voice of God, just show up how you are. And so here I am. There isn't really any structure for what we are going to talk about today. I just need to dump. I need this to be a video diary of me just kind of getting some thoughts out of my head with the trust and the hope and the belief that somewhere out there it will resonate with someone, because I truly believe that we're all connected. And in a lot of ways, we are all going through some version of the same thing. And so here I am today. Okay. Bare bones or whatever. I got on my mama shirt, real comfy, cozy tights. In Georgia, we are starting to cool off a little bit. So like, it's not don't get me wrong, it's still hot. Like, you can still wear your booty shorts if you want to, but it's cooler in the mornings and in the evening. So instead of it being like 95 degrees, it's like a cool 80. So it's still warm, but it's not hot anymore. And so inside of the house, this is the time of the year where you just like to be cozy and comfortable. And so, yeah, I got on my mama shirt, real comfortable, some leggings, and we just gonna thug it out and dump. And so if you are not in the capacity, you have to ask your friends, like, girl, I need to vent. Do you have capacity to hear me out today? That's what I'm asking y'all. Full disclaimer, okay? I need to vent. Do you have capacity? Are you my people and you have capacity for me today? If you do not, I understand. If this ain't the episode for you, you got to skip it. Girl, I get it. If you got too much of your own stuff going on. But yeah, I gotta dump. I gotta get some things off my chest, and I need y'all to play therapist for me today until I'm in therapy, because Lord knows I need to be. Okay. So I always like to assess like what my mood is mentally, physically, spiritually, emotionally. And I like to be able to identify why that is, like what's going on around me or inside of me that can be causing that mood. And so as I was thinking today about, once I decided, you know what, I'm going to show up anyway, I'm going to show up raw. I was like, well, what am I going to talk about? And y'all know things come to me in sound bites and in themes and in like phrases. And the one thing that I kept hearing clearly was, girl, you need to take your own advice. And I think I'm a person who gives really good advice, but I think the premise of this podcast, like, I'm able to share my journey with you guys, and it sounds like advice giving, but at the core of what I'm doing here, the intention is not for this to be an advice podcast or an advice column or a girl get your life together type of experience. What it is, honestly, is me going through the motions of getting myself together and sharing that with the hopes of it helping you get yourself together. But I don't come to you from a super evolved, ooh, I have it all figured out, ooh, I have my life together space. I come to you from a girl, I see you because I'm right there with you space. And so when I started to think about like, girl, you need to take your own advice, I'm talking about like the things that I've talked about over the podcast episodes over the past couple of months. And believe it or not, I revisit the podcast episodes. Sometimes I'll just play it while I'm cooking or play it in the shower, and it may not even be the whole thing, but I really need to hear what I've said so that I can continue to heal myself. Sometimes I get so far away from a part of me that I had worked on, like you start to feel it unravel and it needs a little bit of maintenance. So in the same way that you have to wash your hair, get a pedicure, change your oil, like all of these things in our lives require maintenance. Your heart, your spirit, your spirituality, your mind, your mindfulness, all of those things also require maintenance. And so when I feel like, sometimes when we heal from something, we feel like, oh, I'm good. And so we move forward in life until that thing slaps us again in the face. And then we find ourselves unraveling a little bit all over again. And it's not because you are back to where you started with that problem or that situation or that circumstance. It's really just because you just got to sprinkle a little oil on it. You need to shampoo and condition it, right? You need to maintain it. It requires maintenance. And so I was looking through some of the past things that I've talked about, and I'm like, I think that's a good grounding place to speak from today. If there are things in my life that I feel are unraveling, it's because maintenance is not being applied to those things. And in a lot of the recent podcast episodes, because this has been a space of healing for myself, I just like to revisit it because I need to hear myself come to the conclusions. I need to hear myself give myself the advice again. So maybe that'll be the title of today's episode. Girl, you need to take your own advice. Okay. You need to learn to listen to your own advice. And so one of the things I actually want to go down the list of past episodes because there are some things I want to touch on. And so we can actually start at the beginning with episode 1, the very first episode. It was titled, hold on, I'm pulling it up on Apple Podcast. By the way, this is the perfect time to ask, if you listen on Apple Podcast, please find it in your heart to leave a review because the reviews over there are struggling. And if I've ever said anything that matters to you, that made you feel a way, I just ask that you share it, leave a review, share it, leave a comment if you're watching on YouTube. Those things help more than you will ever realize. So if you are liking the podcast, that is your way of communicating to me that you are doing so. So we haven't had a review left on Apple Podcasts since August 1st. So I would love a September review. Somebody drop me a couple of September reviews, okay? And so, so going back to the episode topics, there's a portion of the show called Beneath the Comments, where I read you all's questions and comments. And one of the ones that will forever stand out to me, a young lady said, your podcast is healing me. It's saving me. That's what she said. She used the word save. And I responded to her and I said, girl, me too. In this season, just being able to sit here and get these things off my chest, it's also saving me. And that was the force that pushed me to come and record an episode today, even though I wasn't in the best spirits to do so. I think I get in my head a lot about it needing to be produced a certain way. And I want to, yes, be able to continue with the polished aspects of it because production is important to me. Content is important to me. My vibe, my aesthetic, those things are important to me. But I also want to be able to show up when all of the stars don't align. God has been so good to me recently. Always, but God has just really been showing up for me. And so I felt like I owed it to myself to at least show up for myself. So here I am. And so when she talked about the podcast is saving her, I started to go back through different episodes because I feel like I'm in a season of needing to be saved myself. And when I say season, I don't necessarily mean 3 months or 4 months. Sometimes a season is a day. Sometimes a season is a couple of weeks. It's all subjective. It doesn't have to be a certain thing. So I want you to free yourself up too from putting these outside barriers and forces on yourself if you feel like the way you navigate things has to have a certain stamp of time. I hate when people say, oh, girl, you should be over that by now, or even in casual conversation when people are like, you still on that? Yes, bitch. I am still on that, So you shouldn't have to feel pressured or rushed to adhere to any timeline when it comes to healing, when it comes to getting married, when it comes to buying a house, just anything, right? And so the very first episode Shout out to me, y'all. This is a episode, today marks episode 17. So that's definitely some consistency trucking along. Study shows that people usually fall off around episode 8 or 10 of a podcast. So y'all pray for me as I grow within my strength within the Lord and staying consistent with the podcast. But the very first episode was titled Refocus, how to refocus after abandoning your dreams. And so I want to go through the episode topics today that I've recently recorded. And I want to talk about kind of where I am in that season of my life now since recording the episode, because a lot of that stuff has piled up on top of me again. And I think it has contributed to the way that I am feeling in this moment today. And so refocusing after abandoning your dreams. This past week was New York Fashion Week. And so all up and down my timeline, the girls are out. The girls look good. The girls are getting their content. They're at the shows and they're in New York. For those of you who don't know, I lived in New York for the past 10 years. I've been back in Atlanta just over a year. So from 2013 to 2023, I lived in New York. I was a New Yorker. And during that time, I was blogging, beauty, fashion, hair, lifestyle, travel. And this was back when the whole term of influencer or creator, those things were kind of unheard of, still relatively new in terms of us understanding what this whole content creation thing really was. And so I had started a blog in college, and I just wanted it to be an outlet for women who looked like me. I've always had a desire, like I've always loved the camera. I would ask my mama every time we was in Walgreens to buy me a little Polaroid camera, and I would take all of the pictures and we would go and get them developed. Like I had books and books of these pictures. I think a lot of them went down in Hurricane Katrina. I'm from New Orleans. But yeah, like I have that memory. And so those little things that your children are doing, you got to pay attention to that, because when I think about it now, that was definitely the beginning phases of content creation for me. But yeah, so I started a blog in college. I wanted to be able to be an outlet for people who looked like me, Black, plus size, natural hair, and just women who felt underrepresented or felt like they weren't seen in the best light. Because so often when you look a certain way or when you show up how I do, people assume that you like have problems with yourself. And I talked about this on the Your Confidence is Offending Them episode. I think so often people start to assume like, oh my God, you dress so well. Like, you know, all of the backhanded compliments you get. And where I'm seated, I've never viewed myself like that. And I never am around other women who look like me who viewed themselves like that. So I felt like the representation of women who looked like me was misguided. And I wanted to blog. I wanted to have these conversations. I wanted to go beneath the seams about these things. But I also wanted to get dressed. I wanted to show this other version like, nah, we're getting dressed. We're going on dates. We're living our life, you know? And so, yeah, so I moved to New York a year after starting that blog. And things really started to become more creator influencer driven. And so now I'm in New York City. So I'm in the backyard of all of these brands. And so brand events are becoming a thing. Sponsorships are becoming a thing. And so I was one of those girls twirling around town, blogging and writing about New York Fashion Week. I was getting invited to the events. I was on brands PR lists. I was getting paid to host different events during Fashion Week. And so as I was watching all of this go down over the last week, coming down my timeline, I really started to mourn my old life. And so when we talk about refocusing after abandoning your dreams, I started to ask myself, Kayla, what even are your dreams in this season? And I've talked about this on the pod before. I want to make sure that I'm not in denial about what I really want. In fact, one of the episodes was titled, Are You in Denial About Who You Really Want to Be? And in that episode, I talked about having all of these passions, but putting myself in a box because of the way we are conditioned to think we have to pick one thing or pick a couple of things and stick to it. And so when I saw all of the girls, I started to mourn living in New York. And that's crazy, y'all, because I don't miss living in New York at all. But I was mourning living in New York. I was mourning blogging and creating and, talking about beauty and style because I've gotten so far away from those things. And if I'm being honest, I really want to talk about those things again. I want to be able to create my, beauty content or my makeup content. And I think I get so in my head about it. I just recently did my last vlog. I talked about how I'm so in my head about vlogging. So this vlog is dedicated to me getting out of my head. And in that vlog, I was just saying how I've put a lot of energy into the pod, and I feel like I've built and am building community around that. And vlogging, I'm having a hard time in my mind making it make sense in terms of fitting in on my channel. And I think the brand strategist side of me is causing me to overthink and has ruined the freedom and flexibility of just create what you want in a way, because for the past 5 years, everything has been so structured. When I stopped creating my own content and started focusing on other people create theirs as a content strategist, at one point I was coaching, I had coaching programs. I realize now all of those things were so misaligned. Like my love for content is because I want to create my own. And y'all, I want to be on stages. Like I'm a star, okay? Star. How that song go? I want to be on stages. I want to be, a girl about town. I'm not, I want to be able to use my talents, one of which being my voice, to be able to impact the world, right? And I know that starts with me, and I'm rewiring my mind to know that I can provide people value by just being me. I think I had gotten so caught up in the running the business, the 6-figure year, the scaling the business, or you need to hire a team and all of these things. That was just so far away from who I am. And I think that in a lot of ways, I'm now uncertain about my ability to get back to her. I think that watching everything on Instagram and watching everything happen over the weekend was a loud reminder that I'm still just not quite being myself. And I get frustrated because I'm like, I don't know how to be her. Now, don't take it literally, right? Because I'm very good at being myself. But when it comes to my branding and my positioning and all of these things online, I am having a hard time getting out of my head and just going super hard with showing up in that way to attract the things that I once had. And I think I get in my head because when you get into like entrepreneur, business, CEO mode, everything becomes about making more money, getting more clients, scaling and running a business. And there's not a lot of room for creativity in that, which is why I realized, oh, this is not for me. But now I'm just so afraid, I guess, in some ways that I can revert back to the things that were for me and still being able to make money, because serving clients, running the business, being a brand strategist, that made me and makes me money. Hands down. I think a part of me is fearful that I can make money from just being me. And I know what you're thinking, like, girl, you see it all around you. Girl, you didn't help people do it. Yeah, all of that. But it doesn't take away from the fact that those are thoughts that still penetrate my brain. I think a best way for me to communicate that is like, even the surgeon can't operate on themselves. So even though I have all of the knowledge and understanding and foresight to be able to know that the things that I'm saying are crazy and that this very much can be accomplished, it doesn't take away from the fact that this is what I'm feeling and these are some of the things that limit me. And yeah, as I was watching everything go down, I was just sad, happy for them, but this extreme sense of like FOMO and just sadness. I'm not a big I don't really understand a lot about what shadow work is. So I don't speak on things until I have a full understanding of what it is. Because, they be saying everything is witchcraft. So I'd be like, what is it, y'all? Is it witchcraft? Is it shadow work? Is it Jesus? Is Jesus involved? Is God involved? I don't know what's going on. Okay. So I just stick to what I know until I know more. But I believe, and y'all correct me if I'm wrong, I believe shadow work is basically this concept that when you are jealous of something or when you feel those moments of envy, it's because that's what you're supposed to be doing. Correct me if I'm wrong, but if that's a piece of shadow work, then I think that's what I was experiencing, because I'm not a person who is maliciously envious, but I've talked about this in an episode as well. I think that comparison can be healthy. Sometimes you are comparing yourself to people because it's what you want. And then sometimes it is evidence that what you want is possible. So I don't always see it as a negative thing, but that is what I was going through over this past week. And I think I'm just in this space where I'm trying to figure out how to trust myself and trust God again to get it. And it's crazy because one of the things I keep telling myself is like, Kayla, you went from building your own brand, influencing, being a content creator, working with brands. Then you started brand strategy. You started a business around that. You started teaching people how to do that, right? You started making these strategies for these businesses. People have made thousands of dollars from the things that you have shown them how to do. So God turned it all the way around from you being a creator. Then once you decided you wanted to have a business, God allowed that to work. So what makes you think that same God can't now make this desire work as well? So in my mind, that makes perfect sense. But in practice and in theory are just two different things. And some days I'm just in here finding it really hard to believe and to focus on you are the brand. You can be the brand. You can make money from being you. There is value in you being you. Now, everything isn't about money, right? I think that's one of the reasons why I continue to show up in this capacity. It's like, this is therapeutic. This is healing for me. And I know that it helps y'all. But let's be all the way real. I believe that you deserve to make money from your gifts. I don't believe that God gives you financial abundance. I believe that God gives you creative abundance, and it's through your creativity and your expression and the use of your gifts that you will be able to make money to feed yourself, feed your family. So it's not all about money, but I think in this season, because my back is so against the wall and I need to kind of make a hard pivot, like I need to fully go all in, but I am struggling to go all in because what I have been doing has been paying the bills. And so there's just this piece of me that's just, I can't say scared of being broke, because girl, it's Halloween around this mother. Okay? If it's about being scared of being broke, baby, I'm walking through a haunted house every day. So it's not that, but I don't know, y'all. I told you this was going to be just a vent session. So I don't know exactly what it is, but it's this higher, deeper feeling that's just kind of keeping me from taking the massive action that I feel is necessary in this season. And maybe I am taking action and I'm just not giving myself enough credit for it. I don't know. Okay. But that's the piece that I want to touch on about the refocusing after abandoning your dreams. So the next episode, that I won't go through all 17 of them because we ain't got that type of time. But the next episode that I want to touch on is, God, when is it going to be my turn? Why comparison isn't always negative. And so again, you guys are witnessing this journey as this being episode 17 of the pod. But in Kayla's mind, I'm like, this is 12 years in episode 17, because I've been creating content in this form, in some form, since 2012. And so one of my friends, Isis, she said to me, she was like, but you got to give yourself credit for the clarity that you have within the last year. And that's right. But I think in my mind, I want the work that I've put in over the past 12 years. Now that I have this clarity, I want the timeline to be sped up. And I know that that's unrealistic, but I'm like, okay, got it, I received it. I've been really obedient and putting in the action. Okay, so give me my guts. Like, I'm ready for things to start happening. And so I think that's also a part of me feeling a little melancholy today, is that God, when is it going to be my turn thing is, I don't know that I'm actually asking that. And I need to be working on believing that my turn will come. And that's the hardest part in these moments, because you think about people who may have passed away, or people who you just see so much talent and so much potential in, and they are not doing things that they wanted to do, or they're not living in their gifts. And so it just starts to make you wonder, does everybody get a turn? And then once you have that thought, it's like, well, if everybody doesn't get a turn, what makes me guaranteed to be in that number that I will get a turn? And so it all just becomes one dangerous spiral. So you can't let yourself stay there too long in those thoughts. But again, just being honest that those are some of the feelings that are really deeply on my mind these days. Like, I'm talking 3 a.m. thoughts, 4 a.m. thoughts, waking up first thing on my mind. And y'all know, if something is on my mind while I sleep, it's really serious, because I don't have no problem sleeping. I told y'all, Glorilla say, I don't be effed up about nothing because I be smoking weed. Kayla say, I don't be effed up about nothing because I be sleep. Okay? I don't have no problem going to sleep. When I'm sad, go to sleep. When I'm happy, go to sleep. When I'm tired, go to sleep. When I'm energized, go to sleep. Like, it does not matter. Thank God I don't have a problem sleeping. So when things start to like kind of wrestle with me at night, that's when I have to really focus on what's going on, because child, I be asleep. You don't be mattering what be happening. I'm going to go to bed. Okay. So yeah, so that's kind of like my relationship with feeling like I need to have stronger belief that I will get a turn, and navigating what that looks like. The next episode I want to talk about is Confessions of a Strong Friend. And it says how to navigate adult friendships. Told y'all I'll be listening to these episodes back. And I am very drained when it comes to my interpersonal relationships. I have one friend group that is still in shambles. There was an incident and we just haven't really made our way back to each other. And it's been a very long time. Well, I could be being dramatic. They say I'm dramatic, but it's been 2 months. That's a long time to me when these are people who you would talk to like regularly, multiple times a week. So that has a little tension over your heart. Particularly because I'm not really believing, I don't know that it's going to be fixed. And so the reality is that you may have to learn to live and move on without these people. And so that's scary. So it's just been too long for me when it comes to conflict. It is my desire to resolve it rather immediately, but I understand that I can't expect everybody to think how I think, operate how I operate, and, handle conflict the way that I do or the way that I desire. But, and we're not going to touch on it too heavy here because I'm down to talk about it once it's more from a healed place. I'm still in the thick of it, and I like to be, as much as I don't mind sharing, and I am very vulnerable with y'all because y'all my people, I also want to be mindful that my personal life does include other people, and I never want it to be a situation where somebody's learning brand new information about themselves or how I regard them from a podcast. So I just want to be mindful of the fact that there are other people involved. But yeah, that situation really is, it's thrown me off my game because friendships are important to me. I've always had really quality friendships. And so in this season of everything kind of being, I don't want to say all over the place, but in a very much growth season, a resurrection season, it is challenging to navigate not being as close to the people who you've been so close to over the past few years. And then in other friend groups, I've been meeting and connecting with newer friends. So people who I've met like within the last 6 months to a year. And in a lot of ways, those relationships have been great. One that comes to mind is my friend April, who we are getting to know each other. She's a lovely girl. And so those relationships are great. But then there are others that I just met and I'm like, what's going on here? Like, I already find myself feeling weird and awkward around it. So I don't know, y'all. I'm in a really challenging place within friendships as well. Just because I feel like I need to be in spaces where I can really be myself. And recently I've started to feel like in these newer spaces, like I've worked too damn hard to show up as me and be unapologetic about that. So whenever I enter into a space where I feel like that's not accepted, I retreat because I can't go back. Word to Kamala Harris, we ain't going back. And so I retreat because I think my protective senses click in and it's like, you don't really see me. My one desire of all of my relationships is to be seen. And that's also like the premise of this podcast is like, let's peel back these layers so that we can be seen and see ourselves and really exist in more cohesive love and understanding of each other. And so in some of my friendships, that's just not happening right now. So that's challenging as well. So yeah, I don't know, y'all. But Shar, my friend Shar was on the podcast last week, episode 16. And so I'm grateful to have that friendship. She mentioned on the podcast that we are growing and becoming closer in this season. Even though I've known her for a while, I've known her for 10 years. It's just great to have somebody to talk to who you do feel like gets you. And so I'm grateful for that. It's never all bad, right? So I'm definitely grateful for that. But y'all, these adult friendships are crazy. I want to revisit the friendship episode with either a guest or just a part two, because it's always forever evolving there. Let me see. There was another one that I wanted to talk to you all about. Your confidence offends them, how to find confidence again at every phase in your life. I think in that episode, it's a really good episode. If you haven't listened to it, you need to. In that episode, I talked about how I broke it down into categories because that's how my mind works. Like, that's how I process information. So I talked about spiritual confidence, mental confidence, physical confidence. And there was one more. Spiritual, mental, physical. Maybe those were the three. I thought it was four. Either way, spiritually, I think that's where my confidence is suffering again in this season. Like, physically, we got that. Face card ain't gonna decline. I don't care if I am sitting here bare face. You see the cheekbones. You see the chisel. You see the material. So physically, I'm intact. But spiritually, I think my confidence, it just needs a boost. And I'm trying to figure out how to grow within that spiritual confidence and really trust God. And I think our relationship is like, I still talk to him every day, but at the same time, I still feel distant. And I don't know if I'm in my head about that. I think I'm trying to apply like a spiritual practice with the prayer. And all I know to do is to do the work, right? So I feel like me showing up to this conversation, that's a spiritual act of obedience. I think when you create, when you express yourself, that's a spiritual act of obedience. But I keep feeling like it needs to be more. Like, I need to be doing something in addition to that. And maybe I don't know. But I feel like, again, faith without work is dead. And so one of the things that I keep asking God, well, what is the work that I need to be doing? And outside of the podcast, which is where I feel very obedient to the mission and the calling on my life, I don't know what else I need to be doing. I mean, maybe my fear of like vlogging and, talking about beauty and style again. I think I'm coming to this answer while I'm talking to y'all. That's why I say I need y'all to play therapist today. So I don't know what y'all saying back to me, but it's coming through. I'm feeling it. I pray before every podcast episode, and I always ask God to use me as a vessel. And today I said, God, use me as a vessel for them and use me as a vessel for me, because I need to hear from you. And so maybe in some way that is coming out right now. But I think maybe the action, the works that needs to go with the faith in this season is me just creating what I want without any limitations or expectations. If I'm being honest, we were doing a really good job at building community over here with the pod. And then all of a sudden it just plateaued. And I think that affected me. And I'm trying to figure out how to bounce back from that, because I know that the metrics do not determine if your message is important. Some people are just silent listeners. Shout out to y'all. Some people are not going to resonate with everything. But I think I'm frustrated because I really, beyond metrics, want to build community around the pod. And I'm having a really hard time figuring out how to do it. And I think in a way that discourages me a little bit. And so it's kind of hindering me from wanting to throw in other forms of content or express myself in other creative ways, because I pour a lot into the pod, and I'm not really seeing the consistent growth and community that I would like to see. And I think that maybe God needs to see a little action from me in terms of those other things. Like I need to free up attaching my creativity to expectation. And I don't know how to do that in this season. Like, I need to just post it, get it out, create it, because it's helpful for me and it's helpful for somebody else. But even taking other people out of it, maybe that's it too. It is helpful for me. Like, I always say you need to create what you need to see and trust that other people will see themselves in you, because people connect with what's real. And so this is why I named this episode, Girl, You Need to Take Your Own Advice. Okay. That is what I've said to people, clients over the years. I've mentioned that in content. And so that's the advice that I need to take, is I need to detach my creativity, my message from metrics and value. And I need to just create the shit that makes me happy and do it long enough to where God can trust me with an award that may come from it. And when I say award is the wrong word, reward. Because we're not looking for trophies. I mean, I'll take the trophies, but a reward, as in, being able to increase my impacts and just unlearning. Like, you guys know you may not know, but I have another podcast, another platform called Content for Brunch. And over there is where I talk about branding and content. And I've been struggling with what to do with that platform. And maybe the answer, I'm overthinking that as well. Maybe the answer is just do me and allow what is meant to come to come. I don't know. Again, I told y'all this episode wasn't gonna have no structure. Y'all probably watching and listening like, girl, what is you talking about? I don't know, y'all. I'm just dumping what is happening in my life. And I don't have the answer, Sway. But I think in some ways I'm figuring it out a little bit in this conversation. So let's keep going with the topics that I want to touch on. So one of the things too is, like, in building community, I'm behind on responding to your comments. Like, I try to really be intentional and actionable about talking back with y'all. And if I'm being honest, I found myself being frustrated because I'm like, nobody's commenting. Like, people are watching, but the views are getting lower. Those things about metrics have started to penetrate me. And that's not even who I am. My friend Shar talked about on last week's episode. She was like, when did you lose you? She was talking to herself. But it resonated with me so much because it's like, we let all of these outside forces get in the way, and it keeps us stagnant, and it keeps us from really showing up and doing what we feel like we're called to do. And I have let those things get in my head. It does sometimes makes me wonder, like, is what I'm saying or doing important? Do people care? Are people finding it valuable? Like, why aren't things progressing in a way that I feel like they should be, or that I've seen for other people? Like, can we have a real conversation? I've helped people start creating content, and they have lapped me over and over again in terms of reach, in terms of influence, in terms of opportunity. And so you do start to feel like, God, give me a sign. Like, am I supposed to be doing this? Like, it's kind of quiet right now. Like, people aren't commenting. People aren't really engaging. I know one thing that, like, frustrates me all the time, and this is a vulnerable dump, y'all. Don't judge me. But, like, no matter what I do over there on Instagram, baby, that number stay right there. It does not grow. I've literally been stuck at the same number on Instagram for like the past, maybe 6 years, if not a little more. So those things are frustrating. It's just like, it's one thing to say, yeah, just put your art out there, let it flow, let it be, let it do what it's going to do. But I think it's a little unrealistic to not want your shit to do well. I was saying to my friend Isis, I was like, I just want to eat from my art. Is that too much to ask? And maybe I'm just trying to speed up God's timeline. And the answer isn't no. The answer is not right now, perhaps. But it doesn't mean that these feelings aren't real. And I just wanted to be able to talk about them and get them out of my head, because I walk around in here with so much in my head that it takes me, it debilitates me. And I say that because I told y'all, after I graduated the Goldman Sachs program, Valerie Jarrett, she said, you're going to have to learn how to experience pain without it debilitating you or making you numb. And I think it stood out so much to me because things do have a tendency to consume me. And that's where I need to do more work. It's like, feel your feels, allow things to be what they are, but keep moving, keep believing, and keep trusting that you can and will have the desires of your heart. And so when I think about some of the things that may have been stopping me lately, they are all physical, tangible things. And the work that I'm doing is not tangible. I'm doing soul work. I'm doing spiritual work. Like, I'm making an impact in ways that may not always be quantifiable by a social standpoint. I'll have to sit with that because that might be my answer. That just came as I was talking to y'all. So, I was telling my friend Isis, I need to be less hard on myself about the quantity of content that I put out, because the quality at which I execute is super high level, which means people who are pumping out the quality that I do, they either have teams, right? So they get to show up and just be talent, and they have editors, they have videographers, they have all of these systems in place where it's just me. I'm a one-man band over here. I'm the editor, I'm the shooter, I'm the makeup artist, I'm writing the script, I'm doing all of those things. So I need to give myself grace because I don't have the team. And then the people who are pumping out 2 posts a day or even 1 post a day, the type of content that they are pumping out is not at the level, and that's no shade or no snarkiness, but it's just not at the level and the quality of which I pump out content. And I came to that realization a couple of weeks ago while editing a piece of content. I was like, this is so good. This is so, high quality, but this is also so soulful. And so I think I need to give myself grace because my art is not the type of art that's put out in mass quantity, but when it does drop, it has so much substance that it sticks with people and that it doesn't just live through, the 24-hour news cycle or algorithm. People actually connect with it on a deeper level. And I think that that's evident in some of the comments that you guys do leave. I want to be clear, like, yeah, I'm not ungrateful for the community that I am building. And it's not lost on me that y'all do comment and that these things do resonate with you. But I think I'm just hard on myself because I'm like, I want to really be able to like help and be valuable and make an impact for real. And so when I'm not seeing tangible evidence of that, and tangible is metrics, I get in my head about it because there's evidence of it. I just may not be able to see it. I know that there's somebody watching or listening who I have in some small way made an impact on. And I'll never know it because they chose not to share, and that is their right. But I got to be more mindful in those times of reminding myself that just because you can't see it doesn't mean it ain't working. Just because you don't see it happening doesn't mean it's not happening. And I think that's the biggest, that's what I'm going to, should I name the episode that? Just because you don't see it happening doesn't mean it's not happening. It's either going to be that or it's going to be, girl, you need to learn to take your own advice. We'll see. We'll see what the spirit hits me when I'm editing the episode, which one of those. But for me, thank y'all for being here with me and sending your energy and your positive vibes because I got it. I think that is the moral of this story. It's just because you don't see it happening, it doesn't mean that it's not happening. And that's what faith is, right? You can't see it, but you take the steps anyway to go towards what it is that you want. Okay, thank you, God. I asked that I needed to hear from you. And so I definitely think that was for me. Hopefully it was for one of y'all too, but that was for me for sure. The last one that I want to touch on is overthinking, the episode about overthinking. I said overthinking is ruining your relationships with God, friends, men, and yourself. And I have definitely spiraled into an overthinking session lately. But I think this episode helped me get out of that. And so if I could say anything to y'all, this is why you just have to show up to whatever it is that you're passionate about, or whatever it is that fills your cup, even when you may not feel like it. And I don't mean don't take breaks, because I think breaks are important, but even when you don't feel like showing up, it's important to do those things that make you happy, because I really enjoy sitting in this seat. It's not always the easiest thing, but I really enjoy it. Like, there's been a weight lifted just in me having this conversation with y'all. And I think in a lot of ways I therapized myself today by just not holding it all in. And so when you overthink, it just allows you to spiral, and you just get further and further in your own head. And overthinking is also an attack of the devil, because if I can have you overthink yourself out of action, then I have you just where I want you, which is inaction, which is not making an impact, which is not, allowing God to use you, not being a vessel, not fulfilling your purpose and your assignment. And I don't want no types of collaborations with the devil. Okay? None. I don't want to be in partnership. I don't want you to know my name. I want you to forget that I exist. Please go on over there, Mr. Satan. Okay? So to know that overthinking for me is an attack of the devil, I have to be very conscious when it starts happening as to what are the factors or the forces that are causing this. So yeah, thank y'all for being here with me today. I feel better. I'm glad that I showed up to the seat today, and I'm grateful for y'all for being expressive in how this space is helping you, because it does help me show up on days where I'm just having a tough time. So this is the part of the show where we go beneath the comments, and y'all ain't been commenting a lot, so we ain't got a lot to read. But in the spirit of expressing gratitude for the 1 or the 1,000, there are a couple of comments that I want to read. And so this one is from Kaylin. She commented on the episode titled overthinking is ruining your life, your relationships with God, friends, men, and yourself. And this was 3 days ago, and I haven't responded to her. I need to respond. That's what I told y'all. I've been so in my head over here. I haven't even been responding to the people who are commenting. Like, that's crazy. She said, Kayla, thank you so much. Honestly, today was one of the hardest days I have had in a long time. I prayed to God to help me out of the dark, and this video found me. This video gave me exactly what I needed, light. And she put it in all caps. And so what she doesn't know is, so thank you, Caitlin, for your comment. But what she doesn't know is when I was reading her comment, I had just prayed for a sign. I was like, God, is this purposed? I was like, sometimes we think things are, about you, and we got it confused. I was like, I need a sign that this is the walk that I'm supposed to take, because if I'm going to go through this, I need to know, like, show me, please. And I took a nap, because y'all know I'm going to be asleep. And I woke up, and she had left this comment. And so I definitely took it as my divine sign. And even her putting light in all caps, her saying that today was one of the hardest days in a long time, that's not lost on me. Like, to know that something you said or did, you just showing up and being you and sharing, helped somebody else in that way, that is major. And so thank you for sharing. I hope that it gave you whatever you needed in that time. And thank you for being light, because those conversations, those types of comments help me to continue with my purpose and continue to be light, because I do think that I am light. I was born in the day, honey. Okay. 3:23 p.m. I am the sun, the light. I was about to say, I am the way, the truth, and the light. I was about to say, Jesus is going to be like, no, sweetie, that's me. Please. That's not you. But thank you so much for that comment. All right, y'all. I feel like this has gotten lengthy, and I sat down and I was like, this ain't gonna be long. I'm gonna just show up, and I'm gonna word vomit, and just get this off my chest. It's like when you call your friend and you be like, real quick, I ain't gonna hold you too long, and y'all on FaceTime, and then an hour later, y'all still on the phone. I feel like that's what this episode turned into. But if you stuck around and if you are still here at the end, this is the part of the show where I want you to be specific in the comments. And this is inspired by Kaylin's comment. So let me know, where are you experiencing light in your life right now? I think it's always important to practice gratitude no matter what we are going through. And so I like to always call it out for us to put in the comments, what are we loving about life? Where are we experiencing light? What are we grateful for? What are we working on? Just positive things, because no matter how dark it gets, no matter how tough things are, this life is truly a blessing. It's truly grateful. I'm truly grateful to be able to wake up and even feel sadness. I think even that is such a significant part of the human experience, and it's so necessary. So even though things ain't all peaches and cream right now, word to 112, I am still grateful for the valleys, because I feel like it's all designed for what God wants us to experience and who God wants us to be. So y'all pray for me as I grow within my strength within the Lord. Ain't that what they used to say in the old Baptist church? I grew up old Southern Baptist. Anyway, I don't want to continue to ramble. Thank y'all so much for checking in with me today. And listen, wherever you are in your journey, whether you need to take your own advice, whether you need to be taking other people's advice, because I do, because I need to be in therapy. And no matter what you're going through, no matter what you're experiencing, no matter what's happening around you or within you, my prayer for you, my wish for you is that you simply find peace in the process of just figuring it out. I will see you guys next time. Bye.